The fight is over when the gorilla says it's over. This is like saying 1 human versus 1,000 ants.
This isn't what I usually do on the channel, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on this hypothetical scenario. Most of you were expecting a Tarbosaurus or Majongosaurus video today, but I promise I'll post it tomorrow or next week Monday. If you aren't living under a rock, I'm sure you've seen the post asking if 100 guys can beat a single gorilla in a fight. As the results have weirdly been even for the most part. Some say the gorilla will just pull a Kong and start swatting the dudes away one by one, and others say that if all the dudes jump the ape at once, the gorilla will get put down faster than Harambe in 2016. Regardless, this fight is very one-sided. I don't even know how this is an argument. Gorillas are the largest and most powerful apes currently on the planet, more specifically the eastern lowland gorillas. The silverbacks can weigh up to 450 pounds, with the occasional specimen pushing 500. However, this size is typically only seen in captivity. The average male human is around 5'9" and 200 pounds, at least in the US. That's what we're going to be using for this video. So no professional boxers, UFC fighters or strongmen. Do you guys remember that time Tyson tried to pay a zoo so that he could fight a silverback? As much love I have for the GOAT, he would have been torn apart, literally. Like, unless you're a character from Baki, no human, even if you are the strongest, can 1v1 a silverback. The exact strength of a gorilla is not really known. Some sources say that it's stronger than 20 men, while some go as low as 8. As for lifting strength, a lot of sources say that they can bench as much as 1800 pounds. Even I doubt this is possible for them, but who knows. But there were some comments of people who've worked with apes and say that a fairly strong gorilla could lift 1100 pounds to the chest, which is terrifying to be honest. The exact specifications on their limit in terms of strength is unknown because we haven't gotten a gorilla to bench press or deadlift a bar, at least not yet. Someone get some white monster and throw it into the California Zoo's gorilla exhibit and see what happens. Don't actually do that, it's a joke. Off topic, but a lot of people overestimate the abilities of some of the apes, especially chimpanzees. There is no way in hell a 160-pound chimpanzee is stronger than 10 people. It's just not possible. They are around 2 to 3 times stronger than the average man, but that's it. The very strongest men like Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw would be stronger than the average male chimp. Would they win? Well, I guess, if they can keep the feces flinging ape's mouth away from their face. That brings me on to the next point. Most people are scared of the gorilla knocking them out or punching the daylights out of them. But what you'd really have to be terrified of are the teeth. These animals have a bite force similar to some of the largest felines alive today, at more than 2,800 newtons, or a bit over 600 psi if you want to use that. Before you flood the comments with the 1300 psi data, that is outdated and just not possible, especially considering that would now be more than 5,000 newtons of force. If that was the case, a gorilla could bite through concrete and possibly bite a small gate chain in half. On top of that, the animal would damage its own skull if it bit that hard. Regardless, this would be more than enough to take chunks out of you and even bite your lower arm off. And considering how large their canines are, it would be far more painful than getting your ribs smashed in. Me personally, if I had to choose, just break my bones, bro. Don't bite me. Throwing punches is not something exclusive to humans, as these guys can do it since it's kinda how they usually settle disputes in the wild. Because with their armorless skin, biting each other wouldn't be optimal for either party. Not saying they don't, but it's not usually what happens. We only really see biting like this in monkeys like baboons and macaques. They don't exactly punch in the traditional sense, like they'll do a hard shove or a slam, but if they were able to throw punches, it would be a whopping 3,200 joules or more. The average adult male only outputs around 150 to 200 joules, with the professional heavyweight boxers approaching 900. There was a study that gave Tyson's punch in his prime 1600 joules. I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, the gorilla's punch still packs more than 2 times the force. Now let's see how we, or the 100 dudes entering the fight specifically, would fare. Humans without weapons are kind of the punching bags of nature. Usually if something is even slightly smaller than us, we'll get bodied by it. We have no claws, thick skin, or canines to bite as a defense. But there's one thing we do use, and that's blunt force. Humans are kind of the masters when it comes to throwing hands. Alright, not the masters, since there are things like the pistol and mantis shrimp out there, but we still do it very well. The average dude's max punch would be able to knock someone 50% larger than them out, although bones would be broken in the process. Our kicks happen to deal the most amount of damage though. Larger muscle mass and a better range of motion can kill almost instantly if hit in the right place, which is why it's commonly used in MMA. Not to kill the opponent, but to knock them out. These are average dudes in the videos though, so the power behind those kicks won't be that powerful, but still strong enough to cause a significant amount of damage. I mean, people have been able to kill leopards with their bare hands by choking them out, but no one here fighting can do that to an almost 500-pound steroid ape. Now onto the fight between the two. If it was a natural setting and 100 people randomly stumbled across a silverback, chances are that they are going to stay back and let the animal pass, or the gorilla will just back off. Also, I'm sure if most of the group saw one of their members' throat torn out and another flying in the air with a broken back, they would be hesitant. So here, neither of the parties have fear. Initially, the gorilla will plow through the first dudes that make contact, grabbing and throwing them into the air, hitting them so hard that bones are broken, and taking chunks out of a few. Chances are that most people will try to utilize the typical form of offense we have, which is throwing hands, but this would likely result in our knuckles being broken considering how durable Harambe's brother is. So the first 30 or even 40 people would get absolutely run through, but after that the fight will start to significantly shift in favor of the humans. Gorillas don't fight for the long run in the wild. They have the little wrestle and pushing match usually, and that's how they settle it. It's usually not more than 3 minutes. I mean, have you ever seen a video of a gorilla fighting longer than 2 minutes? Because I haven't. Other animals like bears and big cats can fight for much longer periods of time because that's just how they're wired and they hunt large prey, so it's only natural for them to have more stamina. After some time the gorilla will get burnt out and not capable of dealing the same damage as it was before. So even if there are 50 people left, that's still 10,000 pounds the gorilla has to hold off. This amount of average guys can easily bring down a gorilla even if it's not that tired. With the ape being barraged with kicks and punches while half of the remaining men are holding it down, it would succumb to internal bleeding. Not to mention, we can bite too. We aren't capable of biting nearly as hard as the gorilla, but it's still enough to cause some bleeding and even take chunks out of the ape too, because their skin, while rough, is similar to ours. But I won't be putting biting into this equation because I think the remaining people will just stomp King Kong's predecessor out when he's on the floor. I have no idea why people underestimate the strength of humans, even when we're in a group. While it is true that most animals our size or larger would win in a fight against us unarmed, as a group we're able to accomplish a lot of things. It baffles me that a good portion of the internet thinks that 100 average guys, which would be the equivalent of 20,000 pounds, would lose to a 450 pound gorilla. Like, what did you think would happen? The guys are just gonna stay still and the animal's gonna take them out one by one? I get that in a natural setting the rest of the group would be hesitant after seeing the first dude get sent flying into a tree, but eventually people will decide to bum rush him. So in a hypothetical scenario between 100 men and one silverback gorilla, the fight easily goes to humanity. With that being said, there would definitely be casualties, around 10, with 30 or more injured, but chances are that the rest are just gonna have bruised knuckles and the occasional fracture from punching and kicking the animal. While it doesn't normally happen, there are exceptions where one person wins with a wild animal. There was a dude that killed a cougar with his bare hands, and another that fought a brown bear off and escaped. Could they kill a gorilla one-on-one? Absolutely not, but it still is impressive that some of us can take on nature's deadliest predators. You know what's the craziest part about gorillas though? They are one of the most peaceful animals out there. Them, orangutans and bonobos are the chill guys of the primate family, only really attacking if provoked or their families being threatened, like this fool that taunted a caged orangutan and it just rolled his ass in. Chimpanzees on the other hand, well, they're a different story. While they aren't nearly as aggressive as mainstream media would have you think, because most of the attacks happen when the animal is stressed or abused, but they still are much more violent when compared to other apes, and it kinda would make sense because a good portion of their diet is meat like colobus monkeys and other primates, not to mention that they kill each other constantly due to turf wars. Hell, they've been known to target gorillas. In one instance, 15 chimpanzees attacked 5 gorillas in the wild and managed to kill an infant, and in another interaction a female chimp was seen eating a baby gorilla. So yeah, while not as blood crazed as some people think, they are definitely more aggressive than the majority of primates. Gorillas don't really care though. Strangers can be within feet of some groups eating and they don't mind. They might let out the occasional grunt and even drag a person like this guy for a few feet, but that's just to establish dominance. So in the tale of 100 dudes versus one gorilla, it's clear that we win. But the biggest question is, which dude is gonna make the first move and take one for the team? For my main audience, this was just an exception. I'll get back to prehistoric content tomorrow. There's been a lot of stuff I wanted to try, but I've just been way too busy. Rest assured they will all fall into place soon though. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.